When most people think of commercial real estate, they think of spreadsheets, leases, and permits. But for me, and especially for my family, it's personal. Because Levcor is a second-generation family business. My father, Larry Levine, started the company back in 1980, and somehow still finds a way to critique my emails 45 years later. My dad grew up in Eagle Pass, Texas, a border town like Pharr, and he had this deep-rooted understanding of the power and potential of South Texas long before most national developers knew how to pronounce Pharr. I mean, honestly, half of them, especially from the West Coast and the East Coast, still don't. We've heard everything from Pharr to Fair to Har. But my father knew. He had a vision for places like this. And in 2007, Levcor purchased a property here in Pharr that many others had overlooked or given up on. The old El Centro Mall. Some of you may remember it. It was one of the first enclosed malls in the region, with construction starting way back in 1971. By the time we acquired it, it had certainly seen better days. Fast forward to today, and Pharr Town Center is a 470,000 square foot shopping and entertainment destination that is not just surviving, but thriving. Right here in the booming Rio Grande Valley. So the story behind the success. How did we go from an aging mall to a bustling powerhouse of retail and restaurants? Well, part of it is hard work. A lot of it is hard work. Part of it is vision. And a big part of it is believing in this region. We started our redevelopment in 2012. And yes, there were challenges. There were a lot of challenges. We had retail bankruptcies, competitive projects, permitting hurdles, potholes that could swallow a small SUV, lead times, construction costs. The list goes on. But we never stopped believing in Pharr, and we never stopped believing in the Valley. And neither should you. Today, Pharr Town Center is home to top-tier national tenants, including TJ Maxx, Ross, Cinemark, Main Event, Academy, Crunch Fitness, Cost Plus World Market, Texas A&M University, and many, many more. And here's the headline everyone wants to hear. IKEA is coming to Pharr. The first IKEA location in the entire Rio Grande Valley is coming to Pharr. After nearly 2 years of hard work, we landed the deal, and we're proud to say they'll be opening this year in fall 2025. If you are in the business of big boxes, IKEA is like the ultimate pipe dream of retail neighborhoods for a commercial real estate developer, and they're coming to Pharr. And you know what? That space only became available because of bankruptcies. Bye Bye Baby and Sears, going out of business at Pharr Town Center, opened up space we wouldn't have otherwise had. And that's an important lesson in this business. Sometimes your biggest setbacks are just setups for your next big win. So, why the Rio Grande Valley? Let's talk about why Pharr and why this region have worked so well. Not just for Levcor, but for our tenants, for our partners, and for our customers. One of the key things we learned about Pharr Town Center is that this city and this region serve three incredibly unique customer bases. Firstly,
So excited.
we have over 1.5 million locals in the Rio Grande Valley. Secondly, there are also 150,000 winter Texans, or snowbirds, who flock down to this region for the warm months. And this is the kicker. There are an estimated 5 million Mexican nationals who cross the border each year to come here, to shop, to dine, and experience what this region has to offer. So, if you're a business looking at the valley and relying on a traditional US-based data provider to tell you what your traffic will be when you start a business here, you're missing half the story. We've had tenants open understaffed because they just didn't believe us when we told them how strong their traffic would be. They only anticipated their American customer base, and they never considered the narrative behind the traffic coming from south of the border. And then we get a call a week later after opening, every single time. We ran out of inventory. We're short-staffed. We need to extend our hours. It's so busy. Help. It's the best call. Pharr and this Rio Grande Valley region has a booming national economy. And that is something that you need to take advantage of and really think about. The Pharr International Bridge is one of the busiest commercial ports in the country. It connects directly to Reynosa, Mexico, and supports a binational supply chain that fuels logistics, retail, and industry in ways that most US metropolitan cities can only dream about. Pharr isn't just open for business, it's uniquely positioned at the crossroads of international commerce, regional growth, and cultural exchange. We're seeing SpaceX revolutionizing the Rio Grande Valley area. Liquid natural gas companies and corporate tourism are booming. And the population here is young, bilingual, and driven. Not to mention the strong network of hospital systems and universities, as you've seen here today, like UTRGV, Texas A&M, and South Texas College, to name a few. These institutions are feeding a skilled and talented workforce. And let me say this, none of this happens without strong local partners. Our relationship with the city of Pharr and the Pharr Economic Development Corporation has been second to none. As a developer who's worked in dozens of markets across the country, some helping and some not so much, I can say without hesitation, Pharr is among the best of the best. So I want to talk about our lessons learned to summarize. Let me leave you with a few takeaways from our journey with Pharr Town Center. Where we came from, where we are today, and where the center is going. Firstly, believe in the markets that others ignore. Levcor saw value here decades ago when most national developers couldn't even locate the valley on the map. They missed out. Embrace binational opportunity. The valley is uniquely positioned to thrive on US and Mexico commerce and culture. Thirdly, and very importantly, partnerships matter. The City of Pharr and the Pharr Economic Development Corporation has been a true partner, motivated, creative, and committed to our vision and the vision we have together to make this community better and bring it to its full potential. The people deserve it. Retailers underestimate this market until they don't. Then they call us back every time, truly every time, and say, "Why didn't you tell us to do this sooner?" And we say, "I tried." And now they've opened 2, 3, 4 locations within a 3-mile radius. The sales don't lie. And finally, sometimes your biggest breakthrough win starts with a loss. As a business, you must always be ready to pivot and pursue the opportunity in every challenge, because there always is an opportunity in a challenge. When one door, or one storefront in our case, closes, another door opens. For IKEA. So my final thoughts. We are so proud of what Pharr Town Center has become, but even more excited about what it represents. Pharr Town Center represents a model for growth, for binational commerce, for the future of retail in underserved and misunderstood markets that are ripe for development and opportunity. To everyone here, whether you're a small business owner, an investor, a public policymaker, or a student, I encourage you to listen to these words and to take a long, hard look at what Pharr and this region has to offer. You'll be surprised at how far it can take you. And if you do decide to take the leap, which I hope you do, I will be the first one to say, "I told you so." So, thank you so much. And thank you to the great people of the City of Pharr, the Pharr Economic Development Corporation, the Rio Grande Valley, the Greater Pharr Chamber of Commerce, and our great state of Texas for allowing us to be a part of your incredible story. So that wraps up my keynote speech, but I wanted to hand this over to Brian as well for a question and answer. Very casual, very personal. The floor is yours.
Anybody have any questions for the right hand?
When will Trader Joe's be, Eric?
Good morning.
You want to come and work for us? We've been pushing very hard. And like I mentioned, in this speech and what I was saying about Pharr Town Center, a lot of these national retailers that are based, on the East Coast, on the West Coast, with major corporate boards, are used to, unfortunately, relying on US-based data software that never fully predicts how fruitful and prosperous a location in South Texas will be. And like I said, once they open, it's like this mind-blowing, realization for every single one of these companies, and they start to roll out pretty quickly. We saw that with Ross, we've seen it with Academy. I think IKEA will follow suit. And so with that, we've had several conversations with them, and they're focused on major urban metros until they're not. And they realize this is a very under the radar market that needs to receive some attention. So we're all on the same team. I'm a big fan of Trader Joe's, and I'm a big fan of Pharr and the Rio Grande Valley, and we're working on it.
You.
Any other questions? Oh, come on. Since I've been here, I've had 50 questions. I know you're not shy.
Seth. All of you. Andy. Pepe.
I was wondering how much it costs to renovate that area and what is your ROI?
So are you asking how much it costs to rent space at Pharr Town
To rebuild the whole place.
to rebuild the whole place?
Because you bought the place, right?
We did. So we bought El Centro Mall. We typically don't disclose full economics, but that's a big challenge that we can speak to generally. When we bought El Centro Mall, you know, a big thing that we always look at as a developer is time value money, right? So as much as we have a vision, we always have to consider the time that it's going to take to execute that vision. And while we're executing that vision, people start to pay attention to a region. They hear things. We work in a big business that's a very small world. So when certain tenants start to talk about this new market that's on their radar, other developers start to pay attention. And what happens with that is we have to consider lead times and the time it takes to actually lease up a center and how that affects evolving costs, specifically higher construction costs. And so when we look at our multi-phase approach to Pharr Town Center, originally we started with a vision to actually repurpose a portion of El Centro Mall until we actually realized that it would be better to start from scratch and have a blank canvas. And that was a lesson that we did have to learn, because when you have an existing building on a site, it oftentimes, at first glance, and it oftentimes is the truth, it does make more sense to use the existing structure than to repurpose it. And then through the retrofitting process and trying to understand between architects and contractors and specific tenant needs that we were pursuing, the retrofitting of the existing structure actually was more costly than to scrape it and start from scratch. And like I said, we bought this in 2007 and it's 2025 and we're now finally finishing the last phase and of a 470,000 square foot center. So we don't necessarily always disclose our cost of purchase and where we're at financially right now, but I can tell you it's been fruitful, but it's definitely been a process that's taken decades, and you just have to really stick with your vision.
Well, I'm assuming you know about the Plaza Mall.
I do.
It's probably one of the best malls in the nation. So do you look at that before you make that decisions to start building and developing the area?
So that's a great question. It's something that we look at as a developer and as a shopping center owner. It's important to have competition in a market. It means the market is vibrant and we're not afraid of it. I think it's great. It drives more customer traffic. But as it relates to our vision for Pharr Town Center, I think it's always important to lead with what do you think is best for the property and really lead with who is your audience and never get distracted from that. Because La Plaza Mall is an incredible mall. And it's a very successful mall, you're right. I think it's historically like a top 3 mall in the country. I don't know exactly today where it stands, but it's definitely at the top of its game. The customer shopping there is also shopping at Pharr Town Center, but they're shopping for different things. And so I think it's always important to stay consistent with what your message is and your audience and your customer base, and understand the cross-shopping patterns that you're trying to create and really establish that special mousetrap within your property, regardless of what everybody else is doing. And so there are certain tenants, for example, that will look at both centers, but there are also certain tenants that will only look at our center or will only look at La Plaza, and we're great with that. We're good with that. There's enough to go around, and we love that La Plaza does extremely well. But for us, we're always consistent with our co-tenancy narrative and the story that we want to tell with our property.
All right, any other questions?
Thank you again for your time here, Sasha. My question to you is, you said you bought the property back in 2007. Right now in development, data and AI is very heavy, and you mentioned not to get distracted. So what metrics were you looking at back in 2007 that told you this is an opportunity that everyone is overseeing?
It's actually a really easy question to answer for me. Although not everybody followed suit as far as people we were trying to attract. It's gut feeling. We have roots in border markets. Like I said, my father, who started Levcor, was born in Eagle Pass, Texas, who's believed in border markets since his 20s, since he first got started. I won't tell you how old he is now, but that's a really long time. I think it's a gut feeling, right? And you need to really, if you believe that something is meant for a property and something is meant for a community, and you know what that community wants, AI can't do that. Now, AI can tell you how to make that better, but an AI can tell you how to pursue certain prospects and how to paint a certain narrative of who your psychographic and demographic consumer base is. And that helps us a lot to tell certain stories. But we still, and we're working on it, have challenges in proving up data that comes from customers south of the border. And that's certainly something that we're working on, we're constantly working on. We've worked as a case study with a lot of American-based data providers, but a lot of them base their data on mobile cell phone data, and they can't pull that data until that cell phone is north of the border.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at quantifying, who's coming from Monterey? We know it's a lot. You all know it's a lot. We can't exactly quantify how many people are coming and how those sales are directly related to all the traffic coming in from south of the border, because between zip codes and mobile data, it's really limited to, the confines of the United States. And so while AI is so helpful, and I'm excited for where it's taking our business, and it's making us all be smarter and work harder and more competitive, you can't replace a gut feeling. And looking at this market and knowing what we know, that gut feeling started, back in 2007, and it's thankfully, proven true.
Yeah.
Hi, Sasha. You said you're a second-generation family-owned business. What's the best advice you can give all of us that have family-owned businesses?
It's a very good question. I think the best thing that both my mom and dad raised us with, and my brother actually works in our family business as well, and we work extremely well together. But I think that it's really important to go cut your teeth and learn on your own, so that when you come back to a family business, you feel like you're adding value and you know what your role is. Because if you just go, hopefully study at university and then come back into a family business, I think, there's certain generations and certain, families that believe, why would we send talent elsewhere when we can start them young and, let them learn from the beginning. But I think my greatest experience that I am most grateful for and thankful for is the difficult bosses that I've dealt with before coming to work with a family business that are still my mentors, that I still do business with, some of which have done deals with us at Pharr Town Center and elsewhere. Those people that really didn't, they weren't a parent that was having to struggle between disciplining a child versus just having an employee and being tough on them. Like, that is so, so important. I think it's really important that you go and cut your teeth and get out of your bubble, get away from your family. That's comfortable. We had previous panels that mentioned getting out of your comfort zone. there is nothing more comfortable than falling back into a family business with no outside experience. And so it's easy. And I think that can then set you up for challenges within a family office, because there's a certain dynamic between like family and business. And the most important thing is to come in with a business mindset and ready to do your job and ready to add value based off of your previous experience. So for me, like I didn't come back into the family business until about 10 years of experience elsewhere. And that most of my experience is actually on the opposite side of the deal. So I used to represent tenants nationally, and now coming in on the ownership side as a landlord, I can speak their language. And that's invaluable for me. And just understanding that I'm here to do my job, and that, you know, family is important, but business is just as important when you're within your family business.
All right, let's take one more question.
So those two tenants that you mentioned that closed down and afforded you the opportunity to bring back that big name here.
Yeah.
A couple of things, like we see the shift in retailer is online. So traditional retail is taking it on the chin. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the names that you had in Pharr are also looking at numbers that are, you know, dwindling. So I'm just curious, do you recruit or find yourself having to recruit, or does the phone ring on your side? Was, oh, we got plenty of phone calls coming in. And number two, do you have adjacent to the big Pharr complex, like more acreage that you can develop a great, like a family destination, some tourist things attract something?
Great question. So I would say that we are definitely pounding your pavement. And that is true for any market. That really isn't like an automatic New York, LA, Chicago. And so even in Houston, we're constantly calling. What we've found here is that people are always ahead of their time, right? So developers start to notice Pharr in the Rio Grande Valley, and then the tenants come after. And the tenants only come because of the comments I mentioned about data and data that's available. They really only come once they understand the proven sales in the market. So as much as I can tell tenant, you know, IKEA is a great example. You need to be here, you're gonna crush it here. And I believe in that. They always need data to prove up to their board and their decision makers. And so when we really look at who we need to attract, we start to look at who's already performing well in the valley. And like a great example would be Ashley Furniture. Ashley Furniture is an extremely, extremely strong location here. We don't own that property, but we're well aware of how they perform. And IKEA was extremely attracted to that. It's a comfort they find when they make a decision. And there's always a risk associated with taking a leap into a secondary market. But we definitely are constantly calling and thinking ahead as to where is this market going to be in 3 to 5 years, and how is that retailer going to start expanding within the market. Something I haven't mentioned that always comes into play when a retailer is making a decision, when they're of that scale, is logistics and distribution. So IKEA or a lot of these other tenants, you know, Academy, Ross, they can't just open in a new market without plans to expand at least 3 to 4 locations, or sometimes up to 10, depending on their supply chain. They need to establish their industrial ports as well, and their last mile distribution sites. And so when we're talking to those tenants, we always have to consider that as well, right? We can't just say, our center's amazing, look at all our tenants, the city's amazing, the region's amazing. We have to think about, how is this tenant going to serve and operate this location efficiently, and how are they going to expand within the region and through South Texas? So the long and short of that is we are certainly always picking up the phone first and getting ahead of it and speaking their language. I think that's important for a developer to not just approach it as, we're the landlord, come to our center. You have to put yourself in the other person's shoes and understand what makes the tenant successful, because if the tenant is not successful, we are not successful. I'm sorry, what was your second question?
Land nearby.
Land nearby. Yeah. So our final phase, we're actually pretty much 100% leased with the primary phase of Pharr Town Center. Most recently, we opened James Avery. And our final phase is actually a site that's existing. It's a spec building that we built in partnership with the Pharr EDC called the Oasis. It's a beautiful 14,000 square foot spec building that has ample patio, tremendous parking, and it has direct sight lines to Cinemark and IKEA. And you have an opportunity, in my opinion, being pretty fluid in the center and also knowledgeable about the region, it's a tremendous opportunity to be a local or regional business owner, restaurateur, an entertainment user, a bar, a retailer, to take advantage of the national lineup that is going to pull so much regional traffic at Pharr Town Center. This is our opportunity to really take advantage of the amazing local entrepreneurs that we have here that want to open either their first restaurant location or expand from Harlingen or Edinburgh or even the island, come and open a restaurant at Pharr Town Center. It's really the only space that we have left to lease, and we've been saving it for that right local regional operator that wants to be right across from IKEA. So you can go buy furniture, go see a movie, go have fun at the event, go to Academy, take advantage of the national traffic that's coming from all of these tenants that are existing, and really benefit from that and get visibility and attract that traffic to your local new business.
All right, Sasha, thank you so much. Big hand for talking to me. Appreciate